reaction to it and the whole having it on record to see what people have to say. It's content. So it's Cynotic Scribe. He makes Final Fantasy XIV lore videos. If you are questioning something about the lore of Final Fantasy XIV, Cynotic Scribe has your back. He's so fucking good at it. So he, a couple of days ago, apparently this was 7 days ago, a week ago, he posted a video named My Current Feelings on Final Fantasy XIV, a 15-year retrospective. So there's been a lot of people who have been telling me that, well, I have seen a lot of reactions to Dawn Trail. And Endwalker especially, like the post content of Endwalker was kind of where the tipping point was starting to go to the bad side. And now some people tell me, no, it's just overreaction. When you have someone like Cynotic Scribe being like making a video like this, I'm like, oh, what's going on?
I feel like a good reason for that is 14 has had how much content between A Realm Reborn and Endwalker? Like, how long of a game cycle was that?
It's been 10 years?
Yeah, that was a decade, and now they're starting out fresh with Dawn Trail. You guys already had a full story with your Warrior of Light, and now they're just restarting it with someone else, so I could see like a lot of people just leaving 14 because fuck it, I'm done with this story.
Quite. Not only that though, like the story of Dawn Trail was a major factor, sure. Only 30 minutes long too, yeah. You want me to pull out a 4-hour long video? The thing is, it's not only just the story of Dawn Trail that was one of the biggest things. The post content of Endwalker, like the patches. Again, I know it came during the whole COVID scenario and all that garbage, but Endwalker had some of the worst content, post MSQ content, in my opinion. The relic weapon was a complete fucking joke. There was no grind at all, and they didn't make an exploration zone for you to grind. They made an island where you spend your time by yourself picking flowers. And that's it. It just turns into an Excel spreadsheet. But I am so curious to see what Cynotic Scribe has to say. This is going to be complete fucking nonsense to you, though.
Could you share the video to the Discord?
Yes.
Thank you.
Share screen. Share feelings on Dawn Trail. There we go. Can you see it?
1 second. I was looking at another Discord server at the time and I did relocate yours. There it is.
Okay. Can you hear it?
Good day, everyone.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna cut the music from Digimon. Oh. As a WoW player, I feel like Grandpa Simpson going, "It will happen to you." I don't like this feeling because it's kind of petty. It's not petty. It's just, it's just knowing what is going on.
Do you feel like 14 is going to have a Final Fantasy 14 classic where they will just show you the A Realm Reborn and Sport 2 again? Yeah. Do you think people would be excited for that?
I would. I want to experience the game from the beginning. But I know a lot of people say no because they hate it. The game has gotten to a point where they like make everything extremely easy to do. So like, I don't think there are going to be people who are going to be happy if they pull that back. I would. I want the game to be meaner to me, and it's because I'm a psychopath. I recognize this. Hell, I'm working towards a bit of a spoiler chat for you. I'm working with Arkolf to make a New Game Plus Final Fantasy XIV run where we are purposefully limiting ourselves on what we can do. Like, we can only teleport 3 times a day in-game. We can only take like 3 classes. We cannot get quest rewards and stuff like that. We're trying to limiting ourselves to see how we can approach the game in a different way that is not like super fast, instantaneous, everything is super easy. So starting with new characters, basically. Just to see how it runs, just to see how to experience it. But in the meantime, okay. First of all, I want to say, Scribe, I'm about to steal your content. Let's go. Let's see what you have to say. I'm really curious. 2, I'm gonna draw you a little doodle. So please enjoy.
Good day, everyone. I am the Synodic Scribe.
Just checking the audio.
You know, for as long as I've played Final Fantasy XIV, I've rarely, if ever, voiced my opinion and true feelings on the game itself over the years. Mostly because, instead of complaining needlessly over every little change or detail, I prefer to let the developers feel things out. I don't want a game made just for me. I want the creators to impress me with their own vision. But for the first time in a while, I'm not impressed with 14. And for the first time on this channel, I want to talk about that. But instead of simply complaining about what I don't currently like, I want to discuss my experience with the game and how I got to this point. But, by all means, after this video is over, be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And, as always, fellow content creators have my full permission to react to my content on their platform.
Done. Okay, I'll take it. I don't need to draw you shit. You gave me permission. Now it's fine.
Damn, Bracky, what a bitch.
Not just because I want to hear other people's opinions, but because I want to see if I'm simply the only one that feels.
Granted, I'm not a quote-unquote content
Perhaps Final
creator.
Fantasy 14 just
I'm too
isn't
stupid
made
for
me
that.
anymore, and I need to hear my peers tell me that. But before I begin, allow me to say this for the developers of Final Fantasy 14. Anata no doriyuko to saino
Okay, I need to look at. Thank you for very much for your. Oh.
kansha shimasu.
Attempting to say it in Japanese.
Yeah, to be respectful.
Yeah.
I congratulate you on that, sir.
When I was a kid, I was first exposed to an MMO called Final Fantasy XI, and I was blown away. Suffice to say, I'd already started playing games.
I'm gonna be pausing the video every now and then because I'm again reactionary. I'm trying to make it good content, but Final Fantasy XI, I will say this: I fucking love that game. I don't give a shit what people say. I don't care that it's archaic. I don't care that it's so slow. I don't care that the combat is boring because you're just standing and hitting and pressing a couple of buttons so you have enough energy to do an attack. That shit is
How long
fun.
has WoW been around and do that?
Yeah, I know, but I play 11 and it's way rougher.
It's archaic by this point with how software development works.
It's absurdly archaic. It was a nightmare. It was awesome.
Hell, Warcraft is even older than that, and it's a fucking fossil.
Now the thing is, I'm fully aware that I play at 11 with the advantages of the new player experience, with the whole thing of being given the trust system and everything. And people who follow me on my streams, they know that I try not to abuse the trust system until I was running out of time to experience the story. That's when I started using the trust characters. But I tried, god damn it. And I love it. I love Final Fantasy XI.
Games at that point
I even made art.
And the idea of experiencing a game with friends and fellow adventurers in a living, breathing world felt magical to me, and it still does. I personally feel that MMOs alone have the ability to inspire unique player experiences, and that's what makes them special. They have the potential to tackle content that your typical single or even multiplayer games just don't have the ability to. So imagine how excited I was later in life to hear that Final Fantasy was going to get a brand new MMO in the form of Final Fantasy XIV. I had reached a point in my life where I was finally starting to make a little bit of money for myself, so I swore that I was going to be boots on the ground day one with this brand new MMO. That made the disappointment of what was about to happen that much more painful.
Yeah.
I had invested early into 1.0.
1.0 was a nightmare.
Gaining access to the early beta and everything. And, understandably, I was in shock at how unfinished the game felt. Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was indeed as bad as people say it was. Combat was clunky, many environments felt colorless or drab, and basic functions like map navigation was an absolute nightmare. I'm not kidding when I say the forests around Gridania was a literal grid map.
Ooh.
So I won't waste much time on what 1.0 did wrong because that could be an entire video in itself. But suffice to say, I felt cheated. The first new MMO that I devoted what little money I had to play easily felt like the worst investment I had ever made.
That sucks.
And because I didn't have a lot of money,
I feel so bad. I'm gonna say it. That's me with Sparking Zero.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. Sparking Zero is the first game I have bought that I regret buying. Because I got it. No one is fucking... Who's playing Sparking Zero right now?
Fair.
No one. No one gives a shit about Sparking. It was fun for the first couple of weeks, and then everyone stopped playing. Gone.
God, I feel it with a lot of games.
Stick around long. The game wasted about a month or a month and a half of my time before I unsubbed and walked away, taking this as a life lesson and damaging my opinion of Square Enix quite thoroughly. When I heard that 1.0 was getting nuked into oblivion, I sorta smiled as I watched people react to its eventual downfall.
No, that's not good.
I didn't feel anything for Eorzea's ruin because it never inspired any kind of love from me. Sure, there were aspects of the lore and jobs that I found interesting, but minor interest couldn't overcome the horrible UI, messy quest design, and lifeless world.
Yeah.
And so,
you want to talk about lifeless world? We have yet to see that happen.
1.0 ended, and life moved on.
The overworld in Final Fantasy XIV is, in my opinion, one of the worst overworlds in MMORPGs.
Really?
There's nothing.
Huh.
It's just the overworld is there as salad dressing, basically.
Ugh.
Years after the initial launch, 2.0 would be announced, and at first, I couldn't care less. After experiencing the mess
it looks
of 1.0
cool,
firsthand,
but
I
there's nothing
figured
to
there
do.
was no
there's fuck all to do.
possible way that they could fix that dumpster fire of a game. But to my surprise, I was hearing nothing but good things, and eventually one of my friends at the time passionately encouraged me to give it another chance. I was beyond skeptical, but I wasn't able to scratch that MMO itch for years at that point, and I was desperate for a decent experience. So, I used my old 1.0 logins and resubbed my account.
That means he has a tattoo. I didn't know that.
Then,
Yep.
to say that I was impressed would be an understatement. The developers for A Realm Reborn had done the impossible, completely redesigning a failed product into a vibrant and engaging world. But mind you, they built up 2.0 in just a couple years, when some game studios end up taking an entire decade just to release an MMO's beta phase.
There's an entire video about
The
that,
success story of 2.0 was completely unheard of in the games industry, and I don't want to imagine the amount of sleepless nights they must have had to pull off this miracle. But I will die on the hill that A Realm Reborn deserves every credit it has earned for the studio's work ethic and passion alone. As for myself, I began running around with fate parties to grind experience, reading over various textbooks to learn what lore had changed after the calamity, and once I was level 50, I tackled what was currently endgame at the time: Titan Hard Mode.
Titan Hard Mode was endgame?
Apparently. I mean, he said level 50, so...
But then what the fuck was Extreme? Yeah, we haven't had a hard mode now that I think about it. We just keep getting the extremes ones.
Welcome to feature creep, Bracky.
You know what? Fair. Oh. Oh, even he finds it funny.
I was so back, and one of the friends I made along that journey is still one of my best buddies to this very day.
Oh, that's cute.
The first jobs I made were Dragoon and Summoner, and I was once again super excited for the future of this MMO. Over the years, Final Fantasy XIV would evolve and change in every expansion. Heaven's Word solidified 14's amazing story-driven content. Stormblood improved boss encounters, and Shadowbringers felt like it was carrying on that torch into the future. I was
Shadowbringers was so good
to be a 14 fan. Now, did I like everything they were doing? Of course not. There were changes and augments to things like jobs and some encounters that I didn't care for. For example, when Steps of Faith originally released as a trial, I thought it was a fun...
I miss Steps of Faith. Steps of Faith, in my opinion, was one of the coolest fights in the entire game when I first started, and I kept getting that on my roulettes. Steps of Faith, it's because it's different. It was basically a long bridge, that's the arena, it's a long-ass bridge, and this gigantic, and I mean gigantic fucking dragon, it's slowly walking down the bridge, destroying barriers, and you need to fight it. You need to fight it, it summons a bunch of ads that you also need to kill, and through the pathway of the bridge, basically you need to use like turrets and some like chains and some stuff to attack the dragon to prevent it from moving forward. At some point later on, like by the time I jumped in, it was power crept, so everyone just starts punching, and so you don't have to use the turrets and all that stuff anymore. And I'm like, but it's so cool. I hate the bosses in fights in 14, which is all of them, that is just do damage. Boss arena, do damage. What am I gonna do? Do damage. Can I do like a little thing? No. Do damage. You're going to sit there and do damage and move out of the way.
Just hit the damn thing.
Just hit the damn thing. Just spank it. Just tank and spank. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Tank and spank. And I'm like, I want to do other stuff. Can there's some ads that I need to pull away from the boss? Can I make so the boss is looking on this direction instead of that direction? No, the boss resets to the middle. And I'm like, come on. And that's recent, by the way. The whole thing of, we used, at least for by the time I jump in, you were able to have to position the boss depending on the arena to make it sure it's not as hard of a fight. It's a cool thing for tanks. You need to position it. But now, every single boss just resets to the middle. They all just reset to the middle. Worst case scenario, it's a goddamn wall boss. And I am so tired of the wall bosses. But
the ones where one side of the arena is the boss and you just slap it when he throws out AoEs.
Basically. It's just standing there. And I'm like, I want to do stuff. There are some of the fights where, some of the raids, like specifically, like the near raids. I shared this before on my Twitter. I want those minigames when I get turned into a little plane, and I need to change forms to destroy orbs depending on the color. And then after completing that, I go back to the fight. That's cool. That's awesome. There's another fight that an enemy drops bombs on you, and you need to turn into a gorilla to punch the bombs away. And if the boss is about to do like a big tremor, you need to turn into a bird to avoid it. And Susaku in Stormblood, she has a DDR minigame where everything stops and you need to stand on top of an arrow, and face the direction the arrow is saying, like DDR, to prevent Susaku from getting boosted powers. Just the entire party just doing DDR. Like, that's fun! I'm tired of tanking and spanking. Come on. But yeah, Steps of Faith, by this point in time, nowadays in 2025, it's no longer a fight. That's not a trial. They removed it. They turn it into a solo instance with NPCs. And that's really sad.
Some change of pace from the usual tank and spank.
Thank you.
Nothing fancy, but nothing too difficult. Chain the dragon down with magic and then use giant weapons to deal huge chunks of damage. Easy. So imagine my shock when I heard people complaining that it was too hard.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has fucking changed. Everything remains the same. The world refused to change. We live in an era where if you can't clear something immediately, people fucking cry. God damn it.
The fact
Did people find Zora Magdaros hard in World?
Sora Magdaros?
Yeah, remember the thing where you just wander around its body smacking the
I
crystals?
never found it difficult. I had fun with it actually. Like Sora Magdaros is a fun fight for me.
The problem for me is that I or just the group we would play with would do it too quickly, and we would just be sitting there for like a minute and a half waiting for him to walk to his trigger location because we smashed all of them too fast.
You were too effective.
Yeah.
I'm gonna snooze
Because
this.
all of us would split off to a different location because we knew where they were, break them immediately, and then just run back to the center and dance.
They found it sluggish and annoying, too much of a chore, I hear. Yeah, it's again, I'm a goddamn freak, dude. I like some feeling of choreness to those kinds of fights. Because I like more than just standing and hitting. In certain mechanics. If standing and hitting is too slow, depends. If it's too fast, depends. But I like the gimmick fights. The gimmick fights are fun.
that they nerfed that fight shortly after for those who couldn't follow even the most simple mechanics, to me, was
Nothing
a
has
very
changed.
bad sign. But I had faith that these were only bumps in the road, growing pains that came with the game slowly rocketing up to become one of the most popular MMOs in the entire world. Of course, a few changes were going to be necessary to cater to a bigger crowd, and the developers had my full support. After all, if they were able to turn a pit stain like 1.0 into the gem that was A Realm Reborn, I was confident that they could change course at any point if certain decisions weren't working out. To that end, I present another example from Heavensward, the Diadem, released in 3.1.
Oh, I hear that was a
The
combat
Diadem
zone.
was not super well received, but I could see what they were trying to do when it came to this community-powered content. And that alone earned my respect, because at least the developers were visibly exploring other forms of entertainment.
Yes. The Diadem, for those who didn't know, nowadays is just a gathering zone. You go in as a gatherer and you just pick up your flowers and your mines and all that stuff. You go fish, go mine, and whatever. That's the Diadem right now. Back then, from what Arkolf told me, it was a combat zone and a gathering zone. So you would basically, and this was because before the gatherers were able to be completely invincible to monsters, or invisible rather, because monsters were able to spot you. Nowadays they cannot. But back then,
because people complained.
Yeah, because people complain. So basically, according to Arkolf, you would basically go in as gatherers and some combat classes. The combat classes would fight monsters while the gatherers pick up items. And I don't know what the fighters got for that though. He didn't go into too much detail, but you would basically have this whole thing of people are fighting, defending the gatherers and stuff like that as they get the materials and shit. And that sounds cool. Nowadays, combat classes don't exist there. You go in as a gatherer and you're given a ethereal cannon. That the more you gather, the cannon charges up and you can just shoot the monsters immediately and get materials from them.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh.
Right after launching their first expansion. You know, instead of resting on their laurels and not even trying. I like to think what they learned from Diadem helped to lay the groundwork for content like Eureka in Stormblood, which I personally
I love Eureka.
And additions such as
Wait, did he like Eureka?
Arsenal felt like they were taking groundwork for content like Eureka in Stormblood, which I personally loved.
Thank you. This man is good. Eureka's awesome. I love that place.
And additions such as the Baldessian Arsenal felt like they were taking full advantage of the kind of content MMOs alone are able to generate. Holding up to 56 players, the Arsenal was the first huge raid of its kind in Final Fantasy XIV.
It's so cool.
And I had an amazing time. While many players didn't care for the story of Stormblood, the expansion itself did wonders for encounters and boss design. And the trials in Stormblood felt more like cinematic experiences. And if you're curious as to what job I was playing at that time, I'm a spellsword lover, so I had chosen to main Dark Knight the moment Heavensward Early Access became available, And I was absolutely loving the fact that Dark Knight was considered the magic tank.
Used to be.
At the time.
Yeah, correct.
But don't worry, we'll come back to that later. Suffice to say, player-driven content...
Oh, I feel so bad for him.
Rice.
Dark Knight... Yeah, Dark Knight was the whole thing of dealing with magic. But I think it was recently or something. I don't know. When was it recently? No. It was at some point, the Paladins got they were bitching about them not being able to block magic damage. So they bitched, and it's like, okay, fine, here you can block damage now. You can block magic damage now. And the Darkness got just robbed of the uniqueness. It's like, fuck you. Fucking crybabies.
Bozia, Ishgard Restoration, and more, combined with the engaging MSQ and plenty of side content to play with groups and solo players alike, made me feel like the future of 14 was very bright. I mean, this game went from having absolutely no PvP to having front lines, which, while very unbalanced at the start, was still a lot of fun. And they've done nothing but try to improve upon the PvP experience ever since. Now we have Crystalline Conflict, and most people love it, me included. So why wouldn't I have faith in the developer's vision for the future?
Because they keep listening to people who bitch about it. And not the good kind of bitching. I mean the people who are asking it to be easier.
But in the background, something was starting to nag at me. And I wasn't able to really put my finger on it until the post-content of Shadowbringers.
Oh, what?
You see, by the time Shadowbringers had launched, Final Fantasy XIV had started what I believe to be an odd process of changing or cutting back on content in big ways. We had lost job quests in favor of role quests.
True.
Field operations like Bozia, while fun, had ended abruptly, with the remaining story being told in info cards instead of cutscenes.
Oh, that was the worst. That was dude. Last year we cleared Boscia for some of my friends from Rogadance only, like Thero and Thero, freaking Connor, Sen, and all the folks. We cleared Boscia, and we finished the story, and it's like, okay, that's done. And they go, what? What do you mean that's done? Yeah, that's done. That's the story. What? No. What? Yeah. Oh, you want to know the ending? Yeah. Read these cards. There's what happened later. So
Neat.
Dumb. So fucking dumb.
Not only were we getting less dungeons with every expansion, but even lower level dungeons were suddenly being transformed to match the linear model of modern dungeon design.
Yeah.
And the jobs themselves weren't untouched.
The old dungeons from A Realm Reborn, they had moments where they have a couple of routes. I'm not gonna say multiple routes because they don't go anywhere different, but like you could take left side or right side or whatever. There were optional rooms. There were even some rooms that had puzzles to them, where you had to place a specific monster on top of the switch, kill it, open a door to get a key item. Kill the monster on the switch, open the door, get the key item, and at the end of the dungeon, if you place the key items in the correct position, you open a secret doors with more loot in them. That is awesome.
Yeah.
You want to know what happens now?
Fuck all.
The extra loot is just on the side.
Oh, wonderful.
You just walk past it on this one regular ass corridor that the dungeon is. Fuck, man. Not only that, they're going back in time right now and changing the A Realm Reborn dungeons to be linear.
Ugh.
It's like, come on.
As what many players call job homogenization had already begun, robbing some jobs of skills and abilities that had helped to set them apart from each other. It felt as if everything was becoming excessively formulaic, predictable, safe. Like the developers were going through the motions instead of trying new things. To me, it felt like that candle of creativity was starting to be snuffed out, and I had no idea why.
Whiners.
Even the 24-man raid in Shadowbringers felt more like one massive advertisement for a completely different video game.
Okay, now listen. Okay, now hold on. Let's pull it back a little bit. Those raids are the best raids in the entire game. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. The new raids are the best raids in the entire game because the people who were in charge of that did not think of making them like a raid in Final Fantasy XIV. Yoko Taro had to be stopped from making the raids cooler, aka more punishing. It's like Yoko Taro was ready to do some shit, and they told him, no, stop it, no.
He wanted to make it so that your character is deleted if you fail the raid.
No, that's me. That was me wishing he did that. I was so ready for Yoko Taro, or rather the story in the new raids, to ask me to delete my character, or at least to delete my class back to level 1. And in exchange, I get a mount. Fuck it, I'll do it. I'll start from scratch. Just give me the mount. No, I think he wanted to make the mechanics even harder. Like there's the bullet hell sections in this, which I'm pretty sure it was during this raid where bullet sections were just most of the raid. There were a lot of bullet hells, and that's because Yoko Taro loves those.
Yep.
I love it. I love the new raids. Don't shit on them.
Instead of something that had any business being a raid in this MMO. Don't get me wrong, the near raids were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that's because Final Fantasy XIV is fun. At most, the near raids simply confused the lore while encouraging players to spend money on other Square Enix-owned properties. And to be clear, I'm not against crossover events from other franchises, but don't ever make a crossover take up what is considered to be mainline content. So, post Shadowbringers was the first time in my many years of loving 14 that I had...
I can agree with that, though. As much as I love the near raids, and they are amazing, he is right. It felt like they were not supposed to be part of they should not have been part of the main story, or not the main. These aren't the main story. They are main content. They did feel like an advertisement for sure. Not only that, the story of the near raids is basically one of the endings that Yoko Taro made for his own game. So he's telling the ending of his own game in Final Fantasy XIV.
Jesus.
because that's Yoko Taro for you. What a fucking dick. Oh, you wanna know the ending of the story? Go play that other game. It was.
I mean, Bracky, do you remember the 16 crossover event where the character just looks at the camera and says, "I can't see his story, but perhaps you can."
Perhaps you can.
Play Final Fantasy 16.
If you pay $60.
Bro, it's like 90 for Canadian games.
What? Oh, Canadians. Yeah. Oh, fuck them. It's on sale right now, actually, funny enough. Now, the funniest thing for me about the Final Fantasy 16 crossover, which again, it was not main content, it was a side content, so it's fine. But I remember seeing someone posting, hey, whoever said they don't spoil anything on the 16 crossover in 14, fuck you. They tell you everything. Like, I have not played 16, and I know the main character, number 1, he turns into Ifrit. Number 2, he killed his brother. Number 3, his brother was the Phoenix. So, thankfully, now I know.
Bracky, all of that happens in the prologue.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. You know what's a prologue? Content.
Begun to feel skeptical again. Now, I understand. Not all of these changes were without merit, and some changes were indeed for the best. To further complicate things, the times back then were far from ideal for the development staff. COVID had come out in full swing,
True.
And their studio had been tasked with creating Final Fantasy XVI on top of fueling 14's continued support.
I will say it one more time. I'm pretty sure, I am convinced, and no one can tell me otherwise, that Final Fantasy 16 robbed the attention from Yoshi P and the development team. All the effort that could have gone into 14 went into 16. They got divided. I am convinced, and until I am shown otherwise that that's not the case, that's my firm belief. I'm sorry, but I highly doubt that the moment the expansion for 14 got bad was when they were working on a different project. Was not, sorry. Like, there's no way they didn't affect each other.
Not an easy task, to be sure. But some stuff wasn't making sense to me. The numbers weren't adding up. When asked about things like job homogenization, the official response was that it was due to player feedback.
Dumbasses.
But whenever I looked around to do my own research, the only posts I could find that genuinely wanted these changes were forum posts with a few hundred or 1,000 upvotes. That might sound like a lot, but Square Enix has constantly been promoting how 14 has crazy player numbers. Their own ads would state that the game has over 16 million adventurers, so making radical changes to jobs just for a few thousand players didn't make any sense to me at all. And then, the content to play in the game had begun to dry up. How was Final Fantasy XIV, supposedly one of the most profitable MMOs at the time, lacking the staff and funds to create new content? Like I said, the numbers didn't make sense to me. And then, all of my concerns came to
I've been driving into the forum. I've been like dwelling in the forums the past couple of the past month, because I've been curious what people have to say about the whole like thing. I wanted to make like videos about it and stuff like that, so I started to dwell into the forums, and every single time I've been seeing people ask for, I want the dungeon. This dungeon is too hard. These dungeons in Dawntrail are too difficult, and it's like just a couple of people yelling at each other about it. And I'm like, you are all just yelling at nothing, are you? A lot of people seem to be happy with the difficulty in Dawntrail. And the people who complain that it's too difficult are getting like barely any attention, or are being called like baits, like rage baits. So I don't know what the hell.
head with the release of Endwalker. If you enjoyed Endwalker, then I am very happy for you. But in my own opinion, it's currently the weakest expansion 14 has to offer for a variety of reasons. Whereas Stormblood and Shadowbringers tried to do new things with community content, Endwalker gave us almost nothing.
True.
If anything, Endwalker as an expansion felt more focused on the single-player experience than anything else, with the addition of Island Sanctuary and the removal of relic weapons.
Yeah.
Because I refuse to call the tombstone weapons in Endwalker true relics.
True.
Their acquisition was embarrassingly easy.
The relic weapons in Endwalker were so much nothing. They were complete utter garbage. So much so, I started playing World of Warcraft because of them.
Oh yeah, that's when you got into Classic.
Yep. I got into World of Warcraft Classic because I said, if the next relic step for the relic quote-unquote relic weapon in Endwalker is another tombstone exchange, the same as the last 3 steps, I'm done. I'm gonna go play Classic instead. World of Warcraft Classic. Fuck it. And lo and behold, I ended up playing World of Warcraft Classic.
Indeed you did.
Yep, I had a lot of fun. I had a little too much fun. It was great. And oh god, it was so bad, dude. It was just basically nothing. It was a non-existent like grind. I will say though, like Endwalker, I like Endwalker, but not because of the content. I like Endwalker because of the story. Because duh, of course. But content-wise, I can 100% agree. I think I even mentioned it earlier before starting the video. that the content in Endwalker was probably the worst. Even though the story was good, but god damn it, the content was just such shit in the patches. That's the saddest part.
For the first time while playing Final Fantasy XIV after the release of A Realm Reborn, I felt like I had nothing to do, and I was only logging in to do my usual dailies and weeklies. Even grinding for mounts, like I usually did with my free company, lost all its appeal when I realized we were getting some bland Bahamut holding a chair.
I mean, it looks...
For those who don't know, collecting the trial
fine.
mounts in
It's
Final
fine.
Fantasy XIV usually followed a theme. In A
It does,
Realm Reborn,
though.
you collected elemental horses to eventually get the Radiant Kidding.
True.
Heaven's Word had birds, which led to you gaining a golden phoenix. Stormblood gave you a 9-tailed fox for collecting canines. And
Nah. Call them as it is.
That was kind of sick.
Gateway
Done.
Dragon for collecting dragons.
Don't try to dodge that. Oh, a fox for
Naruto thing?
canines. No, say a fox for collecting wolves. Don't try to dodge the relationship.
And Shadowbringers gave you a Mega Dragon for collecting dragons.
True.
Endwalker was the first expansion to break this cycle and reward the player with something that felt uninspired. Here I was expecting to get some kind of amazing star cat for collecting all the lynxes, and we got this.
Well, the thing is that the theme is not cats and or dragon. The theme was gargoyles. Like, at least that's my understanding. My understanding was that the theme for the Endwalker mounts was gargoyles. That's why you get these weird looking cats.
Amazing star
And,
cat for collecting all the
dragon.
lynxes. And
Now, this Bahamut, I can kind of see what he means.
Yeah.
I can kind of see what he means, but this is the Bahamut from a previous game. I think.
It is, and I think it is Bahamut from an earlier game, but
Yeah.
I can see people being very disappointed in that, considering the nine-tailed fox, the phoenix,
They're more flashy.
the other gold one. They're a lot flashier,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels like they're a lot more worth your time when you're getting the big flashy thing than that, which
Than him
honestly
holding
could've
the
just been in
chair.
that could have been in the Mog shop since it's a classic item.
Oh, yeah, you're not entirely wrong. Thankfully, it's not, but still. But
It's the FF1 Bahamut. The one where you give him a rat tail and he makes you super powered.
oh, there you go. Nah, but at least
Again,
I can
the
see it.
FF1 Bahamut feels like it could have been something for like an event or
Mm-hmm. It could have been better, for sure. But I do believe the theme was gargoyles, at least in my opinion. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But you can't say the whole thing of, yeah, you get a dragon for cats, but you get a fox for canines. Like, nah. Don't say it like that. It is a fox for wolves. Don't dodge it. Don't dodge it.
And we got this. The only content in Endwalker I looked forward to was the Myths of the Realm raid,
Ooh.
which was a lot of fun, but even those couldn't stop me from feeling like this expansion wasn't worth the subscription.
The Myths of the Realm raids, to not go into too much spoiler, although I don't think it matters much, but they were cool. They had amazing music, and so have some fun like raid mechanics. Sure, I think honestly the first one and the second one are the best ones. The third raid is kind of it's fine. I mean, it's good, but I think I prefer the first and the second one. And the first one is the best because it has my favorite song in the game. I think it's really cool. But thematically, I think the Myths of the Realm raids ruin a lot of Final Fantasy XIV for me. They basically give you an explanation for the deities of Eorzea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I really don't like in Final Fantasy XIV. Because nowadays, when I read about the lore of or characters are talking about their gods and the afterlife and stuff like that, I look at them and I go, hey, did you know that your god is garbage? Hey, did you know that your god is dead? Hey, did you know your god is like non-existent? Hey, did you know like this is all bullshit? All your beliefs are stupid, and your family is just probably a speckle of light who's going to resurrect at some point. There's no paradise. All your beliefs are stupid. So whenever
what a lovely story.
Huh?
What a lovely story.
What a lovely story. So whenever I see a character nowadays that goes, "Oh my god," and I go, "What god? Huh? What? Oh, you hope your family is looking down on you, or no, is looking to for you on the afterlife. You're asking your ancestors to be alive. You're hoping to meet your ancestors in the afterlife. Dumbass. You don't know. I know, but you don't know. And now you look stupid in my eyes because of your stupid beliefs that are wrong."
Man, that's real funny that you've become such a late stage adventurer that you understand what the hell happens as an afterlife.
Yup. Hi, Loop and the Mouse. It's like explaining the afterlife and gods and all that stuff ruins a lot of the mysticism of the world. And like, it sucks so bad because again, I was going through one of the stories in the game and there's a character going like, "Oh man, I hope I'm gonna go into battle to fight for my nation. I hope my ancestors are looking for me from the heavens." And I'm just sitting there like,
Oof, I got some rough news for you, buddy.
whoo, whoo. Your ancestors
are all wrong.
Whoo, you know, in the funniest case scenario, you're probably your own ancestor. Now that I think about it, it can be really funny. The funniest one for me, and this is from another one of the stories in the game, where a character is literally told that his parents are dead, and not only are they dead, their souls were eaten, consumed, destroyed, obliterated, turned into nothing. They can't even resurrect. Okay, they can't even reincarnate. And this character goes at the very end, "Man, I hope I get to see my mom in the afterlife." And I'm like, "Oh!" Ooh.
Do I tell him?
I would. It would be so funny, dude. It becomes a big old game of those he know. Yeah. And sadly, that's what Endwalker did for me with the lore of the story. It kind of ruined a lot of the mysticism. When you explain everything, there's nothing to be like excited for. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yet I remained subscribed because I believed in the developers. To that end, I was hoping that finally attending the Final Fantasy XIV Fan Festival in 2023 would get rid of some of these feelings. And while I had tons of fun at the convention, it was mostly because of the people I met and got to know, not because of 14 itself.
Ooh.
So imagine my surprise when all the other content creators I met were telling me that 2023's North America Fan Festival was a complete joke compared to the other conventions and previous fan fests. Between the convention and how I felt about 14 at the moment, it felt like development and improvement from the studio had become an afterthought.
Ah, you son of a bitch! Damn you, Cacho!
Our number one on Mexico.
Fuck you! 2 minutes?
To know.
Okay. What's up?
At least that one was in English. Use ChatGPT to launch ads. Why the fuck would anyone want to do that?
Dude, I get so many fucking AI garbage. I'm so fucking mad. Last night, and that was the weirdest one. Last night, an ad played for a movie about Batman versus Jason Voorhees. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I just decided to look at the screen because I was looking at Marvel Rivals while listening to this. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking AI. They're using AI to make trailers for fake movies.
Incredible.
Fucking Christ. The worst ad I got was a 1 hour long music video. Or not music video. Just a thing with music in the background that was a static image for some like what was it? It was like what is it called? I don't know. It was for an agency or some shit. I don't know. But it was just a 1 hour long static image of elevator music. And I'm like, fucking Christ.
That is someone farming for ad money.
Yeah. If you don't pay attention, you're gonna end up with listening to some like 10-minute long ad. Like Christ.
To 14 itself. So imagine my surprise when all the other content creators I met were telling me that 2023's North America Fan Festival was a complete joke compared to the other conventions and previous fan fests. Between the convention and how I felt about 14 at the moment, it felt like development and improvement from the studio had become an afterthought. So when the Job Actions trailer came around for Dawn Trail, I felt nothing.
But yeah, who
In
cares
fact,
about
I
that?
felt
You wanna know?
worse
I'm sorry. You wanna know what an action trailer is for Final Fantasy XIV? It's just a solid like 2 minutes or so of characters going, yeah, flashy animation, yeah, flashy animation, yeah, flashy animation. That's it. Ooh, how cool!
This sick new skill. Oh, what's it do besides blind me?
It just does sparkles.
I'm gonna turn that off in raids because no, I'm not gonna look at 20 of those.
Man, I cannot wait for the next expansion, dude. My next expansion, my warrior is gonna get a new button that does a hit, and it flashes.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh my god, I'm so fucking hard.
You're gonna hit even harder.
Oh, it's going to look so fucking good when I press that one new button and it just psh, that's it. Oh fucking fuck yeah! It's going to be
Look
so
how
good.
flashy it is, and turn animation off.
I'm so excited to press one more button just so it does psh.
I'm in a 12-man raid group. I'm gonna turn that shit off so I can see.
No, but my flash animation, my big axe.
And it's off.
nothing.
I get
was
having
angry.
Yeah?
I get having those animations have the bigger, flashier shit for higher level characters.
Sure.
But yeah, when you get into these huge raids and everyone has them, it's just getting flashbanged every other
Well,
second.
not only that, but the whole thing about that is that it's just another damage button. That's it. You're just showing a damage button with a glowy effect. That's it. It's nothing new. It's nothing interesting. It's just one more damage button.
Because even then, I could tell we were losing even more abilities.
What does it do? It does
What I
damage.
felt
Okay. What else?
was an
It does
already
damage.
Boring job system.
Thank you.
And honestly, the straw that finally broke the camel's back, the thing that made me finally want to make a video like this, was the announcement of that dumb mobile game. The
Oh,
content in this MMO is starting to feel like an afterthought, and suddenly they're advertising a mobile game. You've got to be kidding me. I understand that the mobile game was likely not made by CBU3.
No, it's someone
and
else. It's a
that
Chinese
the
developer.
game itself is more for the booming mobile market of China and Japan, but that still didn't stop me from feeling incredibly annoyed.
well, yeah. If you're a fan of the game, which I am, and then you're like, okay, the game seems kind of slow. Something's going on. Development of it is kind of going down the fucking trash bag. Like something is going on. I hope they're not distracted with something. And then the first thing they show you is a fucking mobile game being ported, and I'm like,
Bracky, at least it wasn't Diablo Immortal, where that was supposed to be the keynote for that BlizzCon.
ooh.
Yeah, that was the final show of that BlizzCon. Was the "Don't you guys have phones?"
Don't you guys have
presentation.
phones? Guys, don't you have phones?
I think they got booed 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, it was so funny. It was so goddamn funny. Oh, not that one. Hold on. But the whole idea of making a mobile game for that is like... And how is the game's development... how's the story going to be affected by the game by this thing being developed? Are we going to have to be dealing with some retcons? Are we going to be introducing... Oh god, worst case scenario, the mobile game is actually good with its abilities, and they start porting shit they start porting shit to the main game, turning it into an actual mobile game with less abilities.
Oh, God.
Oh. Because I would say, I saw a preview of the mobile game, and I will agree, though, the UI is actually pretty good. The UI for you to opening up your gear...
Is that the UI right there?
No. Well, no. Not this UI, but the UI for... What is it called? For your items, your materia and stuff like that. The item materia menu actually looks good. Because your character like opens a book or opens like this ethereal thing, and the weapon gets placed in the middle, and you see the materia slots floating around it. It looks like a gacha game. It looks like you're upgrading your weapon in a gacha game from Honkai Star Rail.
I think that's kind of how 7R's materia UI worked.
Let me see if I can find that. I'll check. I'll show it after this. But the user interface for the menus and items and inventories and stuff like that actually looks good in the mobile game, and I am kind of mad that we don't have that. But I'll show it after the video.
So now we arrive at my current thoughts and feelings on Final Fantasy XIV. Do I think the game is worth playing?
Yes.
Of course I do.
Yes.
If this is your first time watching one of my videos and you're still on the fence about trying this game, I encourage you to play it for yourself.
Yes. I say this to my chat all the time. The game is worth playing. Especially if you like RPGs. If you like JRPG stories, the game is good. It's a good time. It's a little slow, sure, but it's a JRPG. Those motherfuckers are always fucking slow. And I will always insist, hey, despite all the shit you're hearing about Final Fantasy XIV, play it. Play for yourself. Make your own judgment. I myself love it, despite all the shit show going on right now. But the adventure, I will say it again. Being caught up is the worst part. Being caught up is the worst in the entire MMO, all MMOs. Being caught up is the worst. Catching up is great. Because you're experiencing the story, you're going through the dungeons for the first time, you're experiencing the drops, you're getting the new items, you're meeting people, helping you out with the dungeons. It's a cool adventure, and I highly recommend people who like stories in JRPGs to try it out. I love the game. Give it a shot. Once you're caught up, it's up to you if it's for you. Not to mention, again, memes aside, you have the main game, the first expansion, and the second expansion 100% for free before you decide to shit on the game because you haven't tried it. Try it out, give it a shot, enjoy the adventure. It's a fun one. I highly recommend the game. Being caught up is the worst.
The free trial is shockingly generous. In fact, I wouldn't have made hundreds of lore videos for this MMO if I didn't love it. So where does my love for the game meet my disappointment? Currently, I feel the developers of Final Fantasy XIV have lost sight of what makes an MMO unique.
Yeah.
The hyper-focus on single-player content, oversimplified gameplay, and lack of community-driven events, in my own opinion, has caused the game's engine to stall.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not the first content creator to ask Square Enix who they're making all these radical changes to the game for. And
babies.
Now I'm adding my voice to the confusion.
Dumb, stupid babies.
If players really have been asking for these changes, then I'd like to see receipts. How many players have been asking, and where are those players coming from? I want to see...
I can tell you where they are.
Hmm?
Those players asking for this are the people who play the game once a week. And I say this because I know people who... And I know people who were defending and were so happy about the Endwalker relics, the ones that you just trade the tombstones for, like the super shitty ones that you do nothing for. They were really happy about those weapons because they told me, I'm really happy they are easy to get because that means I can gear my character. These people didn't finish a single relic weapon from Endwalker. And guess what? They didn't need to gear up for nothing because they didn't do content. The people who ask for these kinds of changes, number one, I'm pretty sure it's a I don't want to say it's a minority, because if it's loud enough, people listen to it, just like developers. But it's the kind of people who do not want to sit down and play a game. They want to get the thing immediately and not have to worry about it. They want the immediate, what is it called? The immediate reward.
Gratification?
Yeah, they want the instant gratification and not have to sit down and spend time playing the game. And that's the worst, as someone who likes to spend time playing the game. Because now everything you can get it immediately. And it sucks. I hope some are enjoying the break from Final Fantasy XIV. I can't take a break, because if I take a break, I lose my house.
What?
Yeah. When you buy a house in Final Fantasy XIV, if you are not subscribed, or you don't go into your house after a month, you lose the house.
Oh, right, because the game has limited housing.
Yep. I wish they extend that for like 3 months. Give me...
No warning, immediate eviction.
Well, you do get an email telling you, hey, we're about to destroy your house if you don't log in. And I'm like, oh, I need to pay my subscription.
Bracky, no, that's even funnier than eviction then, because that's the, hey, we're going to bulldoze it. You're going to what? Bulldozer's just outside your house. You alive?
No, not my house.
And you have like 7 people waiting in line on the auction in front of the bulldozer.
Yes. Actually, oh my god. Did I ever tell you the one time I ruined people's like buying experience for a house?
Oh yeah, where you just show up and insta buy it with like triple the base price.
Yeah, because so at some point before the changes to the housing system, if you already had a house and there was a house on sale, you could go to the house that was on sale and insta buy it, compared to other people who didn't have a house, who would need to click on it when it became available for purchase. Okay, there was an invisible clock for people who didn't own a house before that. So what I did is I went there and bought the house. And it was right in front of me. It was like right in front of my house. It was 1 square over. So I bought it in front of all these people who were trying to buy that house.
Damn.
I didn't mean to be an asshole. The problem is the house that I had at that time was in a shitty corner against a wall whose view was covered. The view to the beach was blocked by that house that we're trying to buy.
So you just bought that house.
So I bought the house with a better view in front of all these people who were trying to get it.
BlackRock of 14. No, that's not what BlackRock does.
Who was BlackRock?
Just buy. It's an investment firm that does a bunch of the DEI shit, where they buy up a whole bunch of companies and do all this shit.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. No, I ruined some people's days with that. It was a fun time. I'm so sorry, but I really wanted the better view. And then at some point, I just changed my house to the mansion that I have right now.
Oh yes, your McMansion.
My McMansion that I need to keep subscribed for to get.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
you're paying them real money so that your digital house doesn't get bulldozed a month in.
Pretty much, but that's what I mean. There are people who play the game who don't have as much time to play the game. They decide to just play it like once a week or so, who defend the changes to make the game easier because they don't want to spend the time playing the game, or they don't have the time to spend playing the game. So they are changing the game to make it so people who don't have time get to play the game, but the people who have time to play the game and want to play the game, they get nothing. And that's a problem, because you're catering to a group of people who don't play your game.
Well, it's the same as,
and it's an MMO. Keep this in mind.
Yeah. I feel like that's the same as Netflix being the biggest example of TV producers making TV shows for people who aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
It's why you have characters explaining what they're doing while they're doing it on screen, because they think that you're not even looking at the screen or listening to the dialogue.
Well, that's what happened on 14 too. In 14, in Dawntrail, you have characters who explain to you what just happened 3 times. Like they are expecting you to not pay attention because they think you're too stupid or something. And that happens a lot with modern games.
They think you're doing something else.
That happens a lot with modern games too. Like fucking
Yeah.
God of War Ragnarok. I am never going to forgive all the fucking games from Ubisoft coming out.
There are 3 NPCs that explain a puzzle to you the moment you enter a room.
Correct. The one I will
I
never
wish the timer was longer and
Yeah.
that you had a dedicated shut the fuck up button.
Yeah, give me the option to shut down the hints.
Where if Atreus just says like 2 words, Kratos just snaps at him, quiet.
Quiet boy.
And then he looks at the wall.
It's so frustrating. The one example I always remember is the one from, I forgot which game it was, but it was a lady climbing a mountain, and she would not shut the fuck up about climbing the mountain as she was climbing the fucking mountain.
Horizon, you're talking about Aloy.
Thank you. Fuck you, Aloy.
Or the giant mechanical serpent fight, and she's explaining, I gotta hit the weak point. I think that's a weak point. I should probably shoot the weak point with my
Get on the
arrows.
back of the Hydra.
And people just sucking that game's dick about it being the greatest boss fight ever, and then people show a Monster Hunter serpent from like 15 years ago
that's so
with
good.
the same move set.
No, I'm reminded of what is it called? I'm reminded of Shadow of the Colossus, where you're spending your time fighting the Colossus, and after like what 10 minutes or so, for Dorman just starts going, you want to hit the wick, you want to wait for it to swing the sword.
The lid.
The lid,
The lid.
Wanderer.
He
The
just
lid.
gets the sword into the ground. The lid.
The lid. And games just think you're stupid. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. Games just think you're stupid. That's why we have the yellow paint. Every time.
See, that one is also, I think Gabe Newell did a point about this like years and years ago for like Half-Life and the like. It's really difficult to get a gamer to look where you want them to, or even look up.
Sure. Gamers don't look up.
You have to have things like a light or something that goes off in the direction you want them to look.
I am well aware. Like we know the tactic of the technique of the light source. That's a very common use.
Gears of War has the dedicated hold this button to zoom in on the point of interest.
Yeah, but like I much appreciate the light source because it's something like, oh, there's a light here that is blinking or something, or like the sunlight is showing the path out and stuff like that. Makes sense.
Yeah.
The yellow paint, I believe it less. Because who the fuck is painting yellow all over the place? Who's painting all these letters? Who's painting all this? Who's putting all this duct tape?
Listen, we got to make sure that this ancient decrepit temple is OSHA approved.
But yeah, it's just a nightmare. But I'm going to return to the video now. Sorry for the rant, everyone. It's just fucking video games, man.
Yep.
The data. Because ultimately I don't know what's to blame here, and I feel like I'm grasping at straws. If I had to guess, either the developers are listening to a very small niche section of the community that they need to stop listening to exclusively, or these are corporate decisions and they're simply saying that the player base asked for them.
Make the game easier, we want more people playing it.
Yeah, I can see that. I can absolutely see that being one of the cases.
I mean, what does Yoshi call the corporate bitch that's in charge of it? The Baroness or something?
The Baroness. She's in charge of the store, but specifically, she's in charge of the store. But I think it's them preemptively doing changes because they are afraid, and we saw this with Viper actually. For those who are here in the chat and play Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail, you know that Viper, the class Viper came out not even 2 weeks, I think it was. Not even 2 weeks later, they patched it. They patched the class, getting rid of the dot that it had. Because it's like, it's too difficult to manage for new players. People say it's too difficult. But the thing is, they already had the plan to remove the dot. Because during their game like testing and mechanics and all that stuff, the previous stuff they do, they already were thinking of changing it because they were thinking, man, some players are gonna think this is too much to manage, So they preemptively got ready a patch to remove it when it was live.
Yeah, but isn't it to get to Viper, you have to play through like half a dozen expansions in the
You
game?
be to be level 90, yes.
Yeah.
Now here's the problem.
So you have had hundreds of hours in this game in order
Yes.
to even get to this class to try it out.
The thing about that is, number one, people are stupid. Number two, there's this whole thing of what is it called? What is it called? What is it called? Asking to play the game. So there are players at level 100, Mal, at level 100 doing end game content who get a stack marker on them. A stack marker is a marker that lands on your face, and you have to make sure all your party is together to reduce the damage. I have seen people get the stack marker at level 100 in level 100 raids endgame content, and they run away with it. People don't play the fucking game. The game is so stupidly easy, they don't know what the fuck they're doing by the time they got to harder content. Not even harder content, that was base content. It was in a dungeon, for fuck's sake.
Huh.
In Dawntrail, they added... Wait, what the fuck? Where is this?
I don't think I'd be able to play this game, Bracky. At least a lot of the raids are multiplayer content, because I would just be screaming at people.
Nah, you'll be fine. Trust me. It's not as bad as I'm making it out to be. I'm saying this because I play the game a lot, so I get to experience most of this.
You get to see all of the idiots.
Yeah, I get to see all the idiots, including myself sometimes. But I have seen people who... They're complaining about the dungeons in Dawntrail being harder because they can't just no brain it. Even Joshi P, the director of the game, has said live in front of a camera, he has said, "I fall asleep in dungeons."
Damn.
When developer of the game says, "I'm falling asleep in dungeons," you know something is fucking wrong. So they made the dungeons a little harder, a little harder in Dawntrail, so people can do more stuff, pay some attention, get their rotations going, and all that stuff. Get the blood pumping a little bit, just a little bit. Even at this point, whenever I do new content in 14 for Dawntrail, I have said, this is pretty easy. But that's because I pay attention. I play the game. I have fun with it. I wipe. That's fine. We just kill it the second time. It's fine. I learned the mechanic. I keep going. But there are people out there who do not want to do that. They want to go in, watch Netflix, and just tank and spank. And it's a nightmare.
If they want that, they should just play RuneScape instead.
Oh god, I wish.
Not even kidding. RuneScape is great AFK content.
I've seen Brahma play, yeah.
Like, there's a bunch of AFK content in there,
right.
And then there's the things you gotta pay attention for.
There it is. I found you. Unless you skip it, it can happen. Paranoia. Yeah, it's paranoia. The developers have a fear of players being like... Oh, they have said that they are afraid of people failing. They are afraid of the player failing. There's a game... Sorry, there's a fight in Final Fantasy XIV right now in Dawntrail where you basically take control of an NPC and you're given 5 buttons, Mal. 5 simple buttons. Attack.
Okay.
Second is attack. Decrease damage. Combo attack. Rush. Like a gap closer. And the limit break. Those are your 5 buttons. Okay? So all you do is attack, defense, attack, defense, gap closer just to get to in case an enemy runs too far away. Attack, defense, and that's it. That's all you do, and you move from left to right depending on where the bad orange AOE's are. That's it. That's all you do. And if your HP is low, limit break. You do a lot of damage and heal yourself. Done. That is it. There are people in the forums. I have seen these posts through the past couple of months, bitching that the fight is too hard. I can't understand how people are like this. The game is so goddamn easy. You have 5 buttons. Christ. But they don't wanna. They don't wanna pay attention. They don't wanna do jack shit. There's this one dungeon, people in the chat may know it, the Carnival one from Dawn Trail. The Carnival dungeon, I like it. It's a lot of fun. It has interesting mechanics. The final boss is pretty fun. The first bosses are actually pretty fun. It makes me pay attention because there's like a mechanic where there's some items are hidden. Sorry, a monster hides underneath like a cup, and you need to keep track of the cup because it's like being flipped around so you don't get destroyed, right? So you have to pay attention. Mm-hmm. And people in the forums are like, this dungeon is too hard. I am so tired because I get hit by the thing. I'm hit by the head mechanic. The head mechanic is too hard. Why does he have to have a head mechanic? And I'm just sitting there like, just move out of the fucking way. Just move to the side.
Do you not play video games?
In the video that Scribe is like just made of people bitching about that one fight being too hard makes me go, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. People do not want to make effort. People do not want to spend time learning. They want to get the thing done and ready day one. And I am so confused. Just play the fucking game. Sorry. Oh, it's amazing.
So perhaps it's time to take a step back.
What was he talking about? I completely got lost.
Of the community that they need to stop listening to exclusively.
Right, the babies.
Or these are corporate decisions, and they're simply saying that the player base asked for them.
It's preemptive. It's a preemptive change.
So perhaps it's time to take a step back and reevaluate the current direction of the game. This isn't a knock against the developers. Every MMO has seen its low points, and the fact that it took 10 years of playing for me to want to speak up should assert that I've mostly been happy with it up until this point.
True.
Now that I've addressed my current feelings,
I'd like
to address the 2 things I personally want to see in the future of Final Fantasy XIV. Firstly, I want to see a return of content that takes advantage of the fact that this is an MMO. I remember back during the days of A Realm Reborn when players would notice the shroud changing colors and everybody would get super excited
to
Odin. For Odin together. But open world activities like that don't feel as special anymore. If you've ever been in a hunt train before, you've kind of been in all of them, as hunts themselves haven't really innovated ever since Heavensward.
Yeah.
All activities with our grand companies.
All you do now for the hunt trains is you just join the party. You fly to the direction that you're told to. You hit it once, and then walk away, and that's it. At most, if it's a small hunt train, you just smack it a little bit, and then that's it. And then it's dead. That's it. There's no actual fight. Oh my god, grand companies, dude. I mean, I'm still wondering what the fuck happened to the grand companies. They never brought back all the stuff. It was fun. I like the idea of adding like a faction situation going. The grand companies have not been relevant since Heavensward, I think.
Seem to have stopped entirely, and the developers have never really experimented with anything like free company-based content.
Ooh.
Imagine for a moment, my friends, something like a treasure map that's not just for a small party, but for your entire free company to experience together. Maybe you send different parts of your FC to handle different tasks before all coming back together for one final challenge. And that's your guild activity for the evening. I don't know, I'm just trying.
I'm gonna stop you right there. The second they introduce that, I can see people bitching, I need to talk to other players. I need to have a free company.
People don't want to play with me.
I don't want to play with other people. There's this motherfucker, Pat. I'm just gonna say his fucking name. I'm just gonna say his stupid fucking name. I love you, Pat, but fuck you. Give me 1 second. Let me just get my shirt because I'm sweating of anger. I'm fucking raging right now. I am in the levels of anger.
The angry
See
sweat.
before. Actually, it's just getting hot in my goddamn room.
You're in Mexico. Of course it's hot.
It is. And actually, no. We're at 11 Celsius right now, which is it's not bad, but... Whew.
Someone dialed down the sepia filter.
Yeah. Pat from Super Best Friends plays. Now they from also here you go, Scribe. There's your... I'm gonna post this on Twitter and just send it over to you. Freaking Pat from Super Best Friends play formerly, and now from Cast Super Beast. He was bitching and complaining and saying constantly whenever he was playing Final Fantasy XIV, I don't want to play with other players. I want to play with bots. I don't want to have to deal with other people. I don't have to rely on other people. I just want to get a bot and get the thing done. Constantly.
Then play the first Guild Wars.
Give me a second. He then proceeded to complain about Eureka because he had to rely on other people. There was communication. There was people talking Eureka, so he hated people having to talk, to communicate, to do things in Eureka. He hated that shit. He recently made a video with Wooly talking about how, man, it's so sad that in Final Fantasy XIV people don't talk to each other anymore.
Motherfucker.
Final Fantasy XIV is so dead because like people don't I don't even get to talk to my to friends on the game because like everything you can just do by yourself. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. You are the problem. Motherfucker. You were asking for this. I will always say people who are asking to play a single player game in an MMORPG, fuck you.
Raki, this is why I don't play MMOs. I'm not the target audience for it.
Oh, because you like to do stuff by yourself?
Either stuff by myself or with a small group of people.
Oh, they play Final Fantasy XIV.
Or I don't.
Final Fantasy XIV at this point, you can do all the dungeons without players. You can just do you have a bot system because of course they added the trust system, and now you can just do almost all the game by yourself, and it's so fucking upsetting. It's so but that annoyed me so much. That Pat was like, "Oh my god, it's so sad that the game is so quiet and no one talks to each other." I'm like, "You are the fucking you were asking for this. Shut up."
I'm going to come up with some ideas here. However, I feel that solid group or community content has been missing for years now. Heaven's Word, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers all proved that the development staff has the talent to experiment and push for interesting content that engages their community on a broader stage. I understand not all players enjoyed stuff such as Eureka and Bozia like I did. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's content. It's something to do, a grind or adventure for you to enjoy at your own leisure. Can these forms of content be improved upon? Of course. I'd love to hear what people would have added to something like Eureka to make it more fun. But to say that Eureka failed completely is also incorrect, as it not only brought many players together, it also inspired some groups to continue working together on that content for years after the fact. Only an MMO.
To this day, I can go into Eureka and I see a good group of people. No, I'm not gonna say large one, but I see a good group of people still doing Eureka stuff. They're still doing bunnies. They're still doing the unique encounters. They're still looking for loot. Eureka has my favorite like content outside of the main story, because there are special monsters in Eureka that if you kill them, they drop unique items. They drop unique gear, like a special chest piece. They can drop a special boots that make you faster in the cities. They drop a unique earring that gives you extra defense in that specific area in Eureka. And there's the one hat, the optical hat, which you need to do a bunch of treasure quests in Eureka to get a special materia, and you need to use all of them to craft a unique item, have that item in a special fight, and after you complete that fight with that item on you, you get the optical hat. That shit is fun. That's questing, motherfucker, and I loved it. And then after that, they have...
Oh boy, a fancy hat.
A fancy hat. It was awesome. It was a cone hat. It was funny. But after that, they never did it. Bosha does not have unique random drops. Only the pages for the codex, and all the other possible rewards, are completely guaranteed because you can just get you can just farm the what's it called, the currency from Bosha and just buy the things. That's it. And that's what I'm afraid for the next exploration zone. I don't want another currency system. I want unique drops from monsters. I want the monsters to make me work for it. I want to spend an hour trying to get this one fate to spawn. I fight it, and I may not even get the thing that I want. So I have to come back later and try it again. But that's just me. Because I'm an insane person.
Is able to do things like that. We're currently starving for things to do because some people couldn't stop whining about the food. Instead of sending it back to the kitchen every time, why not ask what kind of spices or sauces they might add to make it more palatable? At the end of the day, gaming as a hobby is a time sink, and MMOs are notorious for demanding more of a player's time than most other types of games. So perhaps don't immediately start groaning when you can't complete something in the first day.
Yep.
Reach out to other players, enjoy the content together. MMOs are a massive multiplayer experience, and they should be enjoyed with friends and fellow adventurers. My second proposal is that I'd like to see a return to player choice when it comes to jobs and general gameplay within Final Fantasy XIV. I personally feel that job homogenization, as players call it, was a fundamental mistake. I don't know who started making those demands, but the developers need to stop listening to whoever they are. Another content creator told me something a while back that I believe was quite profound. He told me that jobs were more complex at level 60 than they are at level 100. And he's not wrong. It feels as if things like the 2-minute meta has strangled any kind of creativity or choice out of 14 when it comes to jobs and gameplay. We currently have 21 jobs as of Dawntrail, but what's the point of having 21 jobs if the things that makes them different aren't respected? Take Dark Knight, for example, my favorite job. I have never hid the fact that I hate the removal of plunge. Because it's not just the removal of plunge that annoys me, it's simply the most recent removal. I lost Dark Arts, which once changed how my skills behaved. Now there's nothing dynamic about my skills. I lost the ability to place Salted Earth wherever I want because someone, somewhere, isn't good with controls. I lost abilities when Abyssal Drain and Carbon Spit were given the same cooldown, despite the fact that they had completely different effects at the time. And then, Dark Knight lost the magical tank status when Paladins kept complaining that they couldn't block magic with their shields.
There it is.
Which they do now. I'll stop there. But suffice to say, Dark Knight now isn't the job I originally loved. And I didn't ask for any of this. To that end, I offer my second proposal. Why not give the player some kind of choice in the matter instead of simply forcing everyone to play the exact same way? If someone can't place Salted Earth to save their life, then sure, give them the option to cast on character.
What he means by that, but the whole Salted Earth thing, is something that I've been also bitching about when it comes to some classes, especially the ones I play. There is this whole thing, just to put it into perspective to you, Mal.
Yeah.
So you have your character, right? You have your little guy. Here you go. There's your little guy. And what people would do, basically, you push the button for Salted Earth, and you would get a target that you can place on the ground. So you have the option to move it around and place it wherever you want to put it. Far away from you, next to you, close to the enemy, close to your companions, whatever. You select where to put it. People bitched that they had to press an extra button for it. So now it just appears underneath you immediately. And they have been doing that with a lot of the abilities in the game, because people cannot be bothered to press an extra button. So the thing just spawns underneath you.
Incredible.
But let
Correct,
me still
I
have
don't want to learn mechanics.
I don't want to learn. It's too much work.
choice to be able to place my Salted Earth wherever I want. If someone isn't good enough at the game to weave skills like plunge into their rotation, then give them the option to move abilities around and play a different way. But don't take away my skills just because someone else spends way too much time staring at FF logs. And don't worry, I know that Dark Knight isn't the only victim here. A lot of healer mains are bored out of their minds hitting the same dot and damage button over and over and over again. Heck, one of my buddies is a summoner main, and he's still pissed that Carbuncle doesn't do anything anymore. It just stands there like a lobotomized rat. And as a lord...
Yeah,
What did it used to do?
Well, it was a character. to begin with, it was a character.
Oh, right, because they made it so summoner is just giving themselves buffs instead of actually summoning things, like the class would say.
Basically, how to put it? It used to be a pet class. You would set your carbuncle, and your carbuncle would have its own abilities. You could move it around. You would cast an ability, and the carbuncle would do the action and stuff like that. It would be a character doing stuff. Nowadays, the carbuncle is just something that appears next to you. It's just like a ghost, and you press the ability, and the ability comes from you. So all your abilities come from you. You are you are the source of your magic. You do your shit.
I feel like if someone is playing a class called Summoner, one would assume that they want to be like a Pokemon trainer or some shit in the game.
That's what I'm hoping. That's why I'm so afraid for Beastmaster. Beastmaster, because it's not a normal class. There's like the whole thing of normal classes and limited classes. Limited classes is something you do for like a mini game stuff. You can just play the game with that class, but you cannot do any actual content with it properly. Let's say you can only do it with other limited classes. So you have this whole thing, and Beastmaster is going to be the same as Blue Mage, which is that, because they cannot balance that. Fuck God, they cannot balance that. So Beastmaster, I am so terrified that it just is going to turn into another, oh, you captured the monster, but the monster actually just gives you its ability, or the monster is just there, but the ability comes from you, and you're the one with the ability. The monster is just aesthetics. It's just there. It's not actually a character. I want the monster to have an HP. I want the monster to be something I move around. I barely want to be the one fighting. I want to make my monster fight. It's a Pokemon. Let's go. But we don't know how it's gonna work. And Summoner is the thing that it has been suffering for the longest time, because they don't know how to balance it, because there are people who go, man, there's a slight delay when it comes to using abilities as Summoner back in the day for the classes. I'm not a Summoner main. I didn't get to play before the changes happened, so I can't really go into proper detail about it. But I know that I like the idea of summoning something and it's its own creature. At least myself. I like that. And the summoners, as far as I know, they got rid of that, so the summons are just another flashy button. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not actually something you summon. That's why in Final Fantasy XI, in Final Fantasy XI it's so good. Final Fantasy XI, you get to dominate one of the monsters, one of the primals or shit, or like summons, and you summon it, and it costs you time. You can only summon it for a certain amount of time, and you make it fight the monsters on the other side. It's like, it's so cool. I love summoning in Final Fantasy XI. You actually feel like a summoner. But in 14, it's just another caster that has a pet on the side and it does nothing. Kinti says, as a counterpoint, when summoner abilities were activated on the pet, the responsiveness was horrific. Most summoner play involved toggling from obey to seek only use skills on command versus use them all on cooldown. 4 GCDs into the fight and align cooldowns, then not touching the command button. I was a summoner main and it was really bad. Sometimes you get your pet casting right away. Sometimes it would take 3 seconds before the pet did anything. Sometimes it would put the ability on cooldown and just not go off for extra fun. I can see how that can be frustrating. But counterpoint, I want to give commands to a pet. I want the pet to do stuff. I want to manage my pet. I want to manage the extra creature next to me. But that's just me.
I feel like that's less an issue of the attack coming from you and coming from the pet instead, and more they really need to fine-tune mechanics if they're having that many issues with a pet.
Mm-hmm. And the problem with that being that 14 is full of people who want to min-max shit. Opa. Like right now, everyone's complaining about Pictomancer because it's so strong, right? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, yeah, it's strong, but that's because it's easy to play. And guess what? At this point in time, I don't really give a shit. I'm still playing Black Mage. That's it. What are we clearing this fight like 2 seconds slower? What a horror!
Oh,
what a terrible thing. But again, I'm not an end game, like, min-max race to world first kind of shit. People don't believe it, but I'm a casual player of the game. I don't do world first. I don't do Cyber's content on release. I don't do any of that shit. So I don't get it.
Picto is the only class that gains damage from downtime?
Oh yeah, because it's able to... So, the thing about that is that what Picto does, it basically... Oh my god. It basically... In downtime, most classes don't get to do much, so they just sit there and wait. For Picto, what Picto does is... Come on, our light. There we go. What Picto does, he needs to paint. In order to cast his special abilities, he needs to paint them first, and then he can cast it. Paint them first, and then you can cast it. Paint them first, and then you can cast them. Plus the cooldown. But because on downtime there's nothing to do, Picto gets to not worry about having to keep up uptime and fighting and dodging mechanics. It just starts painting and painting. Downtime is over. Picto gets to go into the next phase completely full percent. That's why. Meanwhile, the other casters don't do jack shit. They cannot do anything. They cannot recover anything without hitting something. So they lose their quote-unquote damage bursts. While Picto gets to recover his resources. There's 10 seconds of downtime. Picto is prepping its nukes where everyone else is getting their big burst resources delayed by 10 seconds. Pretty much.
I can tell you with 100% confidence that you've not seen even half of what your favorite jobs are truly capable of. So why not ask the developers for more instead of less? The biggest reason job design or job options are important to me is because this is a very combat-heavy game. If you're not raiding, you're using combat to clear dungeons, fades, field operations, and just to explore the world. Jobs need to be fun to play in all forms of content and not just built around the design of endgame or oversimplified for super casual players. There needs to be a system that meets both in the middle. And before someone starts complaining about balance or the meta, let me say, there will always be a meta. Gameplay will never be perfectly balanced.
Ever.
Even now, in Final Fantasy XIV's current homogenized state, you've got players complaining constantly that Pictomancer does too much damage. The jobs have been balanced to the point of being mundane, and some people are still complaining even now. I personally don't get it. So, I'll say this. Let's not balance all the skills and spells purely around the 2-minute meta and things like ultimate trials. Instead of making new jobs for an expansion or two, let's allow creativity to breathe and give Final Fantasy XIV's gameplay some much needed choices. I'm not asking for confusing skill trees, but even Final Fantasy XI had sub-jobs to help spice things up. I want to see Final Fantasy XIV
True.
add something to their job system to spice things up in its own unique way.
Me too. I want the classes to be a little more interesting. I want that kind of stuff. The problem with that is, and I can already see the people in the offices of Square Enix going like, oh, blah, 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 but people are just going to find the more optimized version and they're just going to choose that, so might as well just give it to them. Yeah.
People are going to be playing this game for tens of hours, hundreds of hours. You can afford to wait.
You can afford to wait, but no.
And you want them to be playing that long, because the longer they're in the game, the more likely they're to hit the shop button.
Ooh, the shop button.
Oh, you love the shop button.
But
let's make it a little bigger.
The reality is that people always choose the path of least resistance. Like, if there's a more optimal like options in a class, like let's say if they added skill trees. If they added skill trees to 14, you would see hundreds upon hundreds of videos going, the most optimal skill tree for your class. If you don't play this class, you're not allowed to be in the raid and stuff like that. That happened to me.
Like how in Warcraft? You mean like how people playing Warcraft do that?
Yes. When I was playing World of Warcraft Classic, the whole Season of Discovery thing, I joined a guild, and I was trying to do content as my warlock with my dots. I was a affliction warlock. And I had a lot of fun with Affliction Warlock because I was able to put all these dots and all this poison and then suck the life out. It was awesome. I love it. And then my raid leader goes, yeah, you're going to have to change to a Destruction Warlock because it does more damage than the Affliction Warlock. And here's the rotation that you have to do. And I'm like, can I just play my Affliction Warlock? It's more fun. He goes, no, we need for you to be able to do the damage for this. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to clear fast enough. What do you mean fast enough?
Who's timing us?
Them. Themselves. In the guild, there were people like cheating on each other depending on how fast they cleared the raid. Sucks. People are always going to find the best option and they're just gonna follow it. So at that point, they get rid of skill trees because why does it matter if everyone's going to be playing the same thing? And I can see the developers going, yeah, are we going to waste all this time making these options just for people to choose the most optimal one? Fuck it, let's just give them the most optimal one. Work smarter, not harder. Yeah, I'd rather if it's like a game like this, I'd rather work a little harder than smarter, because smarter can be a little boring.
And I feel that starts with giving players some kind of choice. Because choosing between 21 jobs doesn't matter if the thing you loved about that job is removed in the very next expansion. So long as a job can clear content, that should be all that matters.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's up to player skill to make things work.
And
if content is too hard to clear...
All jobs in Final Fantasy XIV can clear the content. I haven't seen a single time where the people are struggling in a dungeon or in a trial or on a normal raid or whatever, where someone goes, man, I sure hope we don't get a warrior or a black mage for this run, because fuck, man, we're going to not be able to clear this. And I'm just sitting there like, really? I didn't know how to play Bard for the longest time. I only leveled Bard so I get the mounts for the level 100 thing. And I didn't know how to play, and I was able to clear all content completely fine. No issues. So it's like,
Then maybe the developers made the DPS windows too tight again.
Yeah, it is because
I'm looking at you, Alexander Series.
Fuck
you know exactly what you did, Pepsi Man, and I have many stories involving the raid groups that you destroyed, buddy.
So this motherfucker is infamous in the 14 world.
Okay.
He's the raid killer. He's the static destroyer. He's the end of all things.
It's just a buff tiger man.
No, it's a piece of ooze. It's water. This motherfucker had such a tight a DPS window for his HP. That's when it becomes a problem. when you rely so much on your game design for the DPS checks, DPS. What is this game about? Is it about the mechanics or no? DPS. Do more damage. Optimization. Damage. When that's the main thing, it's a problem. Because then you have all the optimizers going feral. Passing the debuffs around and passing tethers was extremely latency sensitive back when the game only updated position every second or so. Yeah.
Bracky, you bring that up. That's part of why I kind of was getting out of First Ascendant, because the late stage bosses, all of them have awful mechanics like that.
Oh, it's it's a whole balance, and I think Mr. Ozma, the combat designer for 14, has said we can never ever design a fight difficulty perfectly. It's always going to be a little too hard, or it's always going to be a little too easy. There's no in between. People will complain no matter what we do. To also be fair, us players were just a whole lot fucking worse at the game during Alexander. I can see that. I wasn't there, but I've been told stories. I wish I was. I was so curious. I wanted to know what the game was like back in the day. Experience it.
Honestly, I'm glad I wasn't raid leading at that time. Oddly planned is the nicest way for me to describe a lot of the raid content in Heaven's Word. But honestly, that's all I want at the moment from the team over at Creative Business Unit 3 right now. Sure, there are other things I could go into, but if these two things alone were addressed, to me, that would be enough for now. Like I said, when it came to A Realm Reborn, they did the impossible.
Yeah.
So I know that under the right circumstances, they have the creativity to wow me with something spectacular.
It's that they're afraid.
As for now, I'll keep making lore content as I usually do, but with things being as they currently are, I felt like getting this off my chest. So I thank you for bearing with me. But just like I stated at the beginning, don't forget to let me know your thoughts as well. I know this isn't my usual type of content, but if you enjoyed my cadence today, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join me as I cover even more lore content in the future. But as always, I thank you all very much for your time. And I look forward to seeing what else Dawntrail has in store for us in the future. But until that day comes, stay safe, my friends. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoy my content, it would mean the world to me if I had earned you as a subscriber. We are currently on the road to 50k, and I'd love to have you as part of that journey. I'd also like to take this time to thank my amazing Patreon supporters.
I let him finish.
Amina Viltar.
Oh, he's gonna read every single one. Never mind.
He's
okay. I love you, Scribe. Thank you so much for the content. But yeah, it's no, that's not the one. It's a whole ordeal. Like, I agree with a lot of the things he said. Like, and seeing more and more people show up talking about how disappointing some of the stuff that they did with Endwalker was, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Not refreshing, comforting, I think is the word I'm looking for. It's kind of comforting to know that I'm not the only one feeling like this. A lot of content creators have been expressing this kind of feeling towards 14's current state, and it does seed itself into a lot of the things I agree with, which is the simplification of it. The abandonment of the whole thing of being a massive multiplayer online game, instead of focusing on these things easier for single players, making things easier for people who don't play with other people, giving bots to other people so they don't have to rely on other people, making sure the story has enough NPCs to do the content with bots. The story itself is going to suffer because they have to rely on the goddamn bots for the trust system. They have to make sure you always have enough companions to do the content. That's going to ruin the story. They have to make sure that people can do the content, so they simplify it. No only that, the fucking developers are afraid of players failing. There's this one thing from Endwalker. There's this one mission where it's a solo instance, and you have to look around. You're basically put in the body of a shitty soldier with no powers, and you have to look for materials to progress to the area without being spotted by enemies, because you have shitty abilities. So you have to scavenge for resources to escape, and you have a time limit. That was awesome. That was stressful. That was great, and I had to actually pay attention. But people are like, I hate that part. That was so bad. That was so annoying. I failed it. Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, just play the fucking game. Just play the goddamn game.
I don't want to play the game. I want to win.
Just play the goddamn thing.
Shut up. I want to win.
Arr.
Do it now. Maybe superpower.
Everything. They are afraid of players failing shit, so everything is just given to us. There are even things. It happened in the most recent event. In the most recent event for the Chinese New Year, it was a quiz. It was a stupid thing of talking to 3 NPCs and reporting back, which I was right again. But it was a quiz, and you can completely fail the quiz. You can be a complete fucking moron and not get a single one right. Fail completely, you still get the thing you see completed.
Incredible.
You don't even have to start from the beginning, or you get less points or something. No. You simply, you tried, here's the prize anyway. So...
then why have the event?
Because it's just a celebration. But, you disagree with most of the things you heard from him? Really, Kinthy? One piece I never hear addressed is that bosses have become more and more complex, even as they have made rotations more intuitive, which tends to be seen as simplification. I don't think the bosses are as that complex, though. They're still just go in and out, dodge the thing, do your damage. I don't think they're that complex. I haven't had any issues with the bosses so far. The new mechanics introduced are just a different look of don't stand in the evil zone, don't stand in the danger zone, that's it. But, wonderful video.